Andre Thomas stared at his reflection in the bathroom mirror, adjusting the collar of his blue button-up shirt. First days were always the worst. This would be his third new school in 5 years, but somehow it never got easier. He ran his hand over his short, neatly trimmed hair and took a deep breath. "Andre, breakfast is ready," his mom called from downstairs. "Coming," he replied, grabbing his backpack. In the kitchen, his mother bustled around in her crisp white doctor's coat, pouring coffee into a travel mug. Dr. Vivian Thomas had moved them to Pinewood after accepting the position of chief surgeon at the local hospital. It was a good opportunity. Great, actually. But Andre couldn't help feeling like they were starting over again. "You nervous?" she asked, sliding a plate of toast toward him. Andre shrugged. Not really. It wasn't entirely true, but he didn't want her to worry. His mom smiled knowingly. "You've got this. Just be yourself." Andre nodded, taking a bite of toast, though his stomach felt tight. Being himself hadn't exactly worked out at his previous schools. 20 minutes later, his mom dropped him off in front of Westridge High School. The 2-story brick building loomed ahead, students streaming through its double doors. "I'll pick you up at 3:30, his mom said. "Good luck, sweetheart." Andre waved as she drove away, then turned to face the school. Kids clustered in groups across the front lawn, laughing and talking. No one seemed to notice him, which was fine. He preferred flying under the radar. Inside, the main office was warm and smelled like copier toner. A gray-haired secretary looked up as he approached the desk. "Can I help you? I'm Andre Thomas. Today's my first day." Recognition flashed across her face. "Dr. Thomas's son. Welcome to Westridge." She rummaged through a stack of papers. "Here's your schedule and a map of the school. Your homeroom is 210, Mr. Patterson." Andre thanked her and stepped back into the hallway, studying the map. The school wasn't huge, but the layout was confusing. As he tried to get his bearings, a steady stream of students pushed past him. He finally found room 210 just as the bell rang. Mr. Patterson, a middle-aged man with a salt-and-pepper beard, barely looked up as Andre handed him the new student slip. "Find any open seat," he said, returning to his computer. Andre scanned the room. Every desk seemed to be taken except one near the back. He made his way down the aisle, aware of curious eyes following him. Westridge High was predominantly white, and he stood out in a way that made his skin prickle with awareness. The morning passed in a blur of new faces and information. Andre kept to himself, speaking only when called on by teachers. By lunchtime, he had memorized the basics of the school layout and managed to open his locker on the first try, which felt like a small victory. The cafeteria was loud and crowded. Andre joined the lunch line, got a tray of pizza and fruit, then faced the most difficult part of any first day, finding somewhere to sit. Most tables were full of students who clearly knew each other well. He spotted one table with only a few kids and headed for it, sliding into an empty seat at the end. The conversation continued around him as if he weren't there. Andre ate quietly, occasionally checking his phone to look less alone. He was halfway through his pizza when a shadow fell across his tray. "You're in my spot," said a voice. Andre looked up to see a tall, broad-shouldered guy standing over him. The boy's Letterman jacket marked him as an athlete, and the group of friends behind him suggested he was popular. "Sorry," Andre said, starting to gather his things. "I didn't know." The boy put his hand on Andre's shoulder, pushing him back down. "Nah, it's cool. I'm Tyler, captain of the wrestling team." He slid into the seat across from Andre, his friends filling in the remaining spaces. "You're new, right? I don't think I've seen you before." Andre nodded cautiously. "Just moved here last week." "Where from?" asked a girl with straight blonde hair who sat next to Tyler. "Chicago." Tyler raised his eyebrows. "Chicago, huh? Must be nice to get away from all that crime." Andre felt his shoulders tense. "It depends on the neighborhood. Mine was pretty quiet." "So what brings your family to our little town?" asked another boy, this one with sandy hair and freckles. "My mom got a job at the hospital." Tyler leaned forward. "What does she do, nurse?" "She's a surgeon. The new chief of surgery, actually." There was a moment of surprised silence, and Andre felt a small flicker of satisfaction. Then Tyler laughed. "No way. The new chief surgeon is your mom? Dr. Thomas?" Andre nodded, taking a sip of his water. "That's interesting," Tyler said, exchanging glances with his friends. "No dad in the picture?" The question felt pointed, invasive. Andre kept his face neutral. "He passed away when I was 8. Sorry to hear that, Tyler said, not sounding particularly sorry. So it's just you and your mom, huh? What do you do for fun, new kid? The conversation was beginning to feel less like friendly interest and more like an interrogation. Different things, music, movies. You play any sports? Asked the freckled boy. Andre shrugged. Not really, Tyler clicked his tongue. That's too bad. Sports are big here at Westridge, especially wrestling. He flexed his arm jokingly. It helps to be strong. The blonde girl giggled. Tyler's being modest. He's state champion. Andre nodded politely. That's impressive. What about your style? Tyler asked, gesturing to Andre's button-up shirt and khaki pants. You always dress like you're going to church? These are just my clothes, Andre said, keeping his voice even. And your hair? Tyler continued. You go to a special barber for that? The questions were becoming more obviously mocking. Andre felt eyes from neighboring tables turning toward them. It's just a regular haircut, he said, suddenly very aware of being the center of attention. Can I touch it? The blonde girl asked, reaching across the table without waiting for permission. Andre leaned back slightly. I'd rather you didn't. Ooh, he's sensitive, Tyler laughed. I'm just curious what your hair feels like. We don't have many diverse students here. The way he said diverse made it clear what he really meant. Andre felt a familiar heat rising in his chest but kept his face carefully blank. He'd been through this before. I should get going, he said, standing up with his tray. Need to find my next class. What's the rush? Tyler grabbed Andre's wrist. We're just getting to know each other. Andre gently but firmly pulled his arm free. Thanks for the welcome, he said evenly. But I don't want to be late. As he walked away, he heard Tyler call after him. See you around, Chicago. Andre dumped his tray and left the cafeteria, his appetite gone. In the hallway, he leaned against a wall and closed his eyes for a moment. It was happening again, the same pattern as his last school. He'd hoped things might be different here. His afternoon classes were uneventful, though he noticed some of Tyler's friends were in his math class. They didn't speak to him, but he caught them looking his way and whispering. By the time the final bell rang, Andre was exhausted from the constant vigilance. At his locker, he quickly packed up his books. All he wanted was to get outside and wait for his mom. As he closed the metal door, he heard a voice behind him. Chicago. Wait up. Tyler was walking toward him, flanked by two other boys from lunch. Andre considered pretending he hadn't heard, but they were already too close. How was your first day? Tyler asked, leaning against the locker next to Andre's. Fine, Andre replied, zipping his backpack. Just fine? That's disappointing. Tyler looked at his friends. We were thinking you might want a proper tour of the school. There's lots of places the teachers don't show you. Something in his tone made Andre uneasy. Thanks, but my mom's waiting. Mommy's waiting, one of the other boys mimicked. And they all laughed. Andre turned to leave. But Tyler stepped in front of him. You should know something about Westridge, Tyler said, his friendly tone at odds with the look in his eyes. We have a certain way of doing things here. A natural order. New kids, especially ones who stand out, need to learn their place. Andre met his gaze steadily. I'm just here to get an education. Noble, Tyler smirked. But there's more to school than books. For a tense moment, they stared at each other. Then Tyler stepped aside. See you tomorrow, Chicago. Andre walked past them, keeping his pace measured even though he wanted to run. Outside, he spotted his mom's car and headed toward it, feeling Tyler's eyes on his back the whole way. How was your day? His mom asked as he climbed in. Andre buckled his seatbelt. It was okay. Make any friends? He looked out the window at the school building. In one of the windows, he thought he saw Tyler watching. Not yet, he said quietly. That night after dinner, Andre went to the garage and rolled out the worn blue mat his grandfather had given him years ago. He changed into loose-fitting clothes, took a deep breath, and began the familiar movements. Slow, deliberate forms that his body remembered even when his mind was troubled. His grandfather's voice echoed in his memory. The true strength of a warrior lies not in defeating others, but in controlling himself. For an hour, Andre practiced, his movements growing more fluid as the tension of the day melted away. No one at school knew this side of him. No one knew that for the past 9 years he had trained almost daily in the ancient discipline of wushu kung fu, becoming skilled enough to compete at national levels. His mother watched from the doorway for a moment before speaking. You're getting better, she said softly. Andre completed the form before stopping. Grandpa would say I'm still too rigid, she smiled. Your grandfather was never satisfied. She paused. Rough day? Andre shrugged. Nothing I can't handle. His mother studied him. You know, if there's trouble, there's no trouble, he interrupted. Just the usual new kid stuff. She didn't look convinced but didn't push further. All right. Don't stay up too late. After she left, Andre returned to his practice, focusing on a particularly challenging sequence of moves. Tomorrow would be another day at Westridge, another day of navigating Tyler and his friends, another day of being the outsider. But out here on his mat, moving through forms passed down through generations, Andre was centered, balanced, in control. Let them underestimate him. They'd learn eventually. 2 weeks had passed since Andre's first day at Westridge High, and things were only getting worse. The morning air was still crisp as Andre jogged through the neighborhood park, his breath forming small clouds. He had started leaving for school an hour early, using the extra time to practice his forms in the quiet corner of the park, behind a cluster of oak trees. Here, away from prying eyes, he could center himself before facing another day. Andre moved through the familiar patterns, his body flowing from one position to the next. His grandfather had taught him that wushu was more than just fighting. It was about discipline, respect, and inner strength. These days, he needed all three. As he finished his routine, he caught sight of his watch. Time to head to school. He grabbed his backpack from beneath a tree and started walking, mentally preparing for what awaited him. The hallways of Westridge were already buzzing when Andre arrived. He kept his head down as he made his way to his locker, hoping to avoid unwanted attention. No such luck. Hey, Chicago. Tyler's voice carried down the hallway. Nice backpack. Did your mommy pick it out for you? Andre ignored him, focusing on the combination lock. 1 turn right, 2 turns left. A hand slammed against the locker next to his face. Tyler leaned in close. I'm talking to you. I heard you, Andre said quietly, continuing to open his locker. Tyler's friend Zach appeared on his other side. Man, you think you're too good to talk to us or something? I just don't have anything to say, Andre replied, keeping his voice even. That's your problem, Tyler said. You don't know how to be friendly. He reached over and knocked Andre's books from his hand, sending them scattering across the floor. Oops. Students nearby laughed as Andre knelt to gather his things. Someone accidentally kicked his math textbook further down the hall. Better hurry, Tyler taunted. Bell's about to ring. By the time Andre collected his books, he was late for first period. Mr. Patterson gave him a disapproving look as he slipped into the classroom. Nice of you to join us, Mr. Thomas, he said. Care to explain why you're late? Several students snickered. Andre could feel his cheeks warming. Sorry, I dropped my books, Mr. Patterson raised an eyebrow. Try to be more careful tomorrow. Take your seat. The rest of the morning continued in a similar fashion. In biology, someone had written, "Go back to Chicago" on his desk. In Spanish, the teacher paired him with Tyler's girlfriend, Heather, who spent the entire period texting under the table while Andre did the assignment alone. By lunchtime, Andre was exhausted. He'd taken to eating in the library where Tyler and his friends rarely ventured. The librarian, Mrs. Chen, was one of the few staff members who seemed to notice what was happening. She never mentioned it directly, but she'd cleared a small table in the back corner where Andre could eat in peace. How's the history project coming along? She asked as he settled in with his sandwich. Almost done, Andre replied. Just need to finish the bibliography. Let me know if you need any help finding sources. She gave him a gentle smile before returning to her desk. Andre ate quietly, flipping through a book on ancient Chinese dynasties he'd found on the shelves. His grandfather would have loved this, he thought. The old man had been full of stories about their family's heritage, tracing their lineage back to warriors who had served emperors. When he was younger, Andre had thought these were just tall tales. Now he wasn't so sure. His phone buzzed with a text from his mom. Working late tonight. Leftovers in fridge. Love you. Andre texted back a quick "love you too" and put his phone away. His mom had been pulling extra shifts lately, trying to prove herself at the new hospital. He tried not to add to her stress by mentioning his problems at school. She'd want to march into the principal's office, and that would only make things worse. The afternoon dragged on. In gym class, they were starting a unit on basketball. Coach Ryder split them into teams, and naturally, Andre ended up on the opposite team from Tyler, Zach, and their friends. Thomas, you ever played before? Coach asked. A little, Andre answered. He'd actually been pretty good at his old school, but he wasn't about to volunteer that information. The game started, and at first it wasn't too bad. Andre managed to score a couple of baskets, staying away from Tyler's aggressive defense. Then during a fast break, Andre found himself with the ball, driving toward the hoop with only Tyler between him and the basket. He faked left, moved right, and was about to take the shot when Tyler's elbow caught him hard in the ribs. Andre stumbled, losing the ball and crashing to the floor. Foul, called someone from Andre's team. Coach Ryder blew his whistle. Walker watched the contact. Tyler held up his hands innocently. Just playing defense, coach, not my fault if he can't handle it. Andre got to his feet, his side throbbing. As they lined up for the free throw, Tyler whispered, "That's just a taste, Chicago." After gym, Andre lingered in the locker room, waiting for the others to leave before changing. His ribs ached where Tyler had hit him, and a bruise was already forming. He gingerly pulled on his shirt, wincing at the movement. "Yo, you still here?" Andre turned to see Luis, a quiet kid from his English class who sat at the back and rarely spoke. "Just taking my time," Andre replied cautiously. Luis glanced toward the door, then back at Andre. "Look, man, I've been meaning to say something. What Tyler and those guys are doing, it's not cool." Andre studied him, unsure if this was some kind of setup. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I've been there," Luis said with a shrug. "Last year when I first moved here, they did the same kind of stuff to me until they found someone else to mess with." He zipped up his bag. "Anyway, just wanted you to know not everyone here is like them." Before Andre could respond, Luis was gone, leaving him alone with his thoughts. The final bell couldn't come soon enough. Andre hurried to his locker, hoping to get out before Tyler and his crew spotted him. No such luck. As he turned the corner, he saw them waiting, lounging against the wall like they had all the time in the world. "There he is," Tyler said, pushing off the wall. "We were wondering where you ran off to." Andre tried to walk past them, but Zach stepped in his way. "Not so fast. We thought maybe you'd want to hang out after school. Get to know the town better." "Thanks, but I need to get home," Andre said, trying to keep his voice steady. "Your mom working late again?" Tyler asked with a smirk. "Big shot surgeon too busy for her son?" Andre felt a flare of anger. "Don't talk about my mom." "Oh, did I hit a nerve?" Tyler's eyes gleamed. "What are you going to do about it, Chicago?" For a moment, Andre pictured how easy it would be to take Tyler down. A sweep of the leg, a palm strike to the chest, moves he'd practiced thousands of times. But his grandfather's voice echoed in his head. "Fighting is always the last resort, never the first." "Nothing," Andre said finally. "I'm not going to do anything," Tyler laughed. "That's what I thought. All talk, no action." He stepped closer, his voice dropping. "Listen carefully. The talent show is coming up next week. I heard you signed up. If I were you, I'd drop out now. Save yourself the embarrassment." Andre's eyes widened slightly. How did Tyler know about that? He'd only put his name on the list yesterday. "What's wrong with me being in the talent show? People like you don't belong on our stage," Tyler said, the false friendliness gone from his voice. "This is your one warning. Drop out, or things will get a lot worse than a few bumps in gym class." The threat hung in the air between them. Andre held Tyler's gaze, neither of them blinking. "I need to go," Andre said at last, pushing past them toward the exit. "Think about what I said," Tyler called after him. Outside, Andre took deep breaths of the cool afternoon air, trying to calm his racing heart. His side hurt where Tyler had elbowed him, and his mind spun with the encounter. The talent show had been his idea. A chance to showcase the wushu forms he'd been practicing for years. Now Tyler was threatening him over it? The walk home gave him time to think. Part of him wanted to drop out to avoid the conflict. But another part, the part that had spent countless hours training with his grandfather, refused to back down. At home, Andre went straight to the garage, rolled out his practice mat, and began to move through his forms. His movements were precise, controlled, each one flowing into the next like water. As his body worked, his mind cleared. He thought about his grandfather who had fled persecution in China only to face discrimination in America. The old man had never backed down, never compromised who he was. "Your heritage is your strength," he used to say. "Never let anyone make you ashamed of it." By the time Andre finished his final form, sweat dripping from his brow, he had made his decision. He would not drop out of the talent show. He would perform and he would show Westridge High exactly who Andre Thomas was. His phone buzzed with a text. Unknown number. This is Luis from school. Got your number from the class directory. Just wanted to say good luck with whatever you're doing for the talent show. Don't let those jerks scare you off. Andre smiled slightly as he texted back. Thanks. No plans to drop out. Maybe he wasn't as alone at Westridge as he thought. The day of the talent show arrived faster than Andre expected. For the past week, he'd doubled his practice time, waking up at 4:30 a.m. to train before school and spending hours in the garage each evening. His muscles ached, but the familiar burn was comforting, a reminder of everything his grandfather had taught him. You're pushing yourself too hard, his mom said over breakfast, watching him massage his shoulder. What's this performance for anyway? You've never been interested in school events before. Andre shrugged. Just thought it might be a good way to meet people. His mom studied him over her coffee mug. Andre, is everything okay at school? You've been so quiet lately. Everything's fine, he said, focusing on his cereal. Just adjusting. She didn't look convinced. You know you can talk to me about anything, right? If someone's giving you trouble, Mom, seriously. It's fine. Andre forced a smile. I'm handling it. The truth was, things had gotten worse over the past week. Word had spread that Andre refused to drop out of the talent show, and Tyler had escalated his campaign. Someone had poured juice in Andre's gym shoes. His history textbook had disappeared from his locker, only to turn up in a bathroom trash can. And the whispers followed him everywhere. Troublemaker. Thinks he's special. Needs to learn his place. Luis was the only bright spot. They'd started eating lunch together in the library, and Andre had learned that Luis was an artist who sketched amazing comic book characters during class. He didn't say much, but his presence made the days more bearable. As Andre walked to school that morning, his stomach twisted with nerves. The talent show was that afternoon, right after classes ended. He'd brought his traditional wushu uniform in his backpack, red silk with black trim, handmade by his grandfather years ago. It felt like carrying a piece of the old man with him. The morning classes dragged on endlessly. In English, Ms. Rivera announced a group project, and Andre found himself paired with Luis and, unfortunately, Heather, Tyler's girlfriend. We need to pick a novel to analyze, Luis said during their planning time. Any preferences? Heather was texting under the desk, barely paying attention. Whatever. Just pick something short. What about The Old Man and the Sea? Andre suggested. It's pretty short, but has a lot to analyze. Heather looked up from her phone with a smirk. Trying to impress the teacher with a classic? Typical. Andre ignored the jab. Just a suggestion. We can pick something else. No, that works, Luis said quickly. I read it last year. It's good, Heather rolled her eyes. Fine, but I'm not doing all the work. No one asked you to, Andre said evenly. She narrowed her eyes at him. You know, Tyler says you think you're better than everyone else. I can see why. I don't think I'm better than anyone, Andre replied. I just want to get through the assignment. Before Heather could respond, Ms. Rivera called time and they returned to their seats. As the class ended, Andre caught Heather watching him with an odd expression, not quite hostile but puzzled, as if trying to figure something out. Lunchtime came, and Andre headed to the library as usual. But when he reached the door, he found a closed for inventory sign posted. Great. Now he needed to find somewhere else to eat. The cafeteria was his only option. Andre got his food and scanned the crowded room, looking for an empty table or at least a quiet corner. He spotted Luis waving from a table near the back and headed that way, relieved. Library's closed, Luis explained as Andre sat down. Mrs. Chen said it'll be closed all week. Andre unwrapped his sandwich with a sigh. Just my luck. You ready for the talent show? Luis asked, keeping his voice low. As ready as I'll ever be. What are you doing anyway? You never said. Andre hesitated. It's a kind of martial arts demonstration. My grandfather taught me. Luis's eyes widened. For real? Like karate and stuff? Not exactly. It's called wushu. It's a Chinese martial art more focused on forms and movements than fighting. That's actually pretty cool, Luis said, looking impressed. Tyler's gonna freak when he stopped abruptly. his gaze shifting to something behind Andre. Andre turned to see Tyler and his friends approaching their table. Well, Tyler said, setting his tray down across from them. If it isn't Chicago and his little friend. He looked at Luis. Didn't I tell you to stay away from this guy? He's bad news. Luis looked down at his food. We're just eating lunch, Tyler. Yeah, and now we're joining you. Tyler sat down and his friends filled in around them. So, Chicago, I notice you're still on the talent show list. Didn't get my message? Andre met his gaze. I got it. I'm still performing. Tyler leaned forward. You really don't get how things work around here, do you? This isn't Chicago. At Westridge, when someone like me tells you to do something, you do it. Someone like you? Andre raised an eyebrow. You mean a bully? The table went quiet. Tyler's face darkened. What did you just call me? You heard me. Andre's heart was pounding, but he kept his voice steady. You push people around because you think it makes you important. Where I come from, we call that being a bully. Tyler stood up suddenly, his chair scraping against the floor. You know what? I was going to give you one more chance, but now you're going to learn what happens when you disrespect me. He grabbed Andre's chocolate milk carton and poured it over his head. Cold liquid ran down Andre's face and neck, soaking into his shirt. The cafeteria erupted in laughter and shocked gasps. Oops, Tyler said with a mock apologetic smile. Looks like you need to clean up before the big show. For a split second, Andre's control nearly snapped. He could feel his muscles tensing, ready to respond. But his grandfather's voice echoed in his mind. The greatest victory is the battle not fought. Instead of retaliating, Andre slowly stood up, milk dripping from his chin. Without a word, he picked up his backpack and walked out of the cafeteria, ignoring the continued laughter behind him. In the bathroom, Andre stripped off his soaked shirt and tried to clean up as best he could. His reflection in the mirror looked back at him, chocolate milk still running down his neck and chest. The door opened and Luis came in carrying a gym bag. Here, he said, pulling out a plain gray t-shirt. It's my gym shirt. It's clean, I swear. Andre took it gratefully. Thanks. I can't believe you didn't hit him, Luis said, watching Andre change. I would have. Fighting him wouldn't solve anything, Andre replied, though part of him had wanted to do exactly that. Maybe not, but it would have felt good. Luis leaned against the sink. Everyone's talking about what happened. Some people think you're scared of him, but others... He hesitated. Others are impressed you kept your cool. Andre pulled the borrowed shirt over his head. It was a little tight, but better than nothing. I don't care what people think. Yeah, you do, Luis said with a small smile. Everyone does. But for what it's worth, I think you handled it right. The rest of the day was miserable. Word of the cafeteria incident had spread, and everywhere Andre went, he could feel eyes on him, hear the whispers. Even some teachers seemed to be looking at him differently. By the time the final bell rang, signaling the end of classes and the beginning of talent show preparations, Andre was having serious doubts. Maybe Tyler was right. Maybe he should just drop out, save himself the humiliation. As if reading his thoughts, Luis appeared at his side in the hallway. Don't even think about bailing, he said firmly. If you don't show up, Tyler wins, Andre sighed. Maybe that's easier. Easier, yeah. But you'd hate yourself for it. Luis handed him a folded piece of paper. Here. Andre opened it to find a sketch, a stylized drawing of a warrior in motion, clearly based on the wushu forms Andre had described. The figure was powerful, graceful, and unmistakably meant to be him. That's how I see you, Luis said simply, not as the guy who got milk poured on him, as the guy who stayed calm when anyone else would have lost it. Andre stared at the drawing, something shifting inside him. Thanks, Luis, don't thank me. Just go show them what you can do. The auditorium was filling up as Andre slipped backstage to change. He carefully unfolded the red and black uniform, remembering the day his grandfather had given it to him. When you wear this, the old man had said, you carry our family's honor. Never forget that. Andre changed quickly, then warmed up in a quiet corner, going through simple stretches and breathing exercises. Around him, other students prepared for their acts. Singers practicing scales, dancers stretching, a girl tuning a violin. Ms. Peters, the drama teacher in charge of the show, bustled past with a clipboard. 5 minutes to curtain, everyone. Andre, you're number 8 after Danielle's violin solo. Andre nodded, trying to control the butterflies in his stomach. Through a gap in the curtain, he could see the audience filing in. His mom had promised to come if she could get away from the hospital. He spotted Luis taking a seat near the front, and then his heart sank. Tyler and his friends in the third row, laughing among themselves. The show began. Andre barely registered the first few acts, his mind focused on what was to come. When Danielle finished her violin piece to enthusiastic applause, he knew it was time. "Next up," announced Ms. Peters, "we have Andre Thomas performing a traditional wushu martial arts demonstration." As Andre stepped onto the stage, he heard scattered laughter and a few whispers. Under the bright lights, he could barely make out individual faces, but he could feel Tyler's mocking gaze. For a moment, he stood frozen, suddenly unsure. Then he caught sight of Luis in the front row, giving him a thumbs up. And there, slipping into a seat at the back, his mom, still in her scrubs, clearly having rushed from the hospital. Andre took a deep breath, centered himself, and began. His body moved through the ancient forms, each motion precise and fluid. He started slowly, demonstrating the basic stances and movements, then gradually increased the speed and complexity. His arms flowed like water, his legs stable as mountains, just as his grandfather had taught him. The audience grew quiet. The laughter stopped, as Andre launched into a series of acrobatic moves, leaping kicks, spinning in midair, landing with perfect balance. He heard gasps of surprise. He was no longer in the Westridge Auditorium. He was with his grandfather in the early morning mist, learning to be strong, to be disciplined, to be proud of who he was. Each movement told that story, the story of a legacy passed down through generations, of strength that came from something deeper than muscles. When Andre finished the final form, landing in a deep stance with his arms extended, the auditorium was completely silent. For a terrible moment, he thought they were going to laugh again. Then someone started clapping, then another person, and suddenly the whole audience was on their feet, applauding wildly. Andre straightened up, breathing hard, and took a small bow as his grandfather had taught him. As he walked off stage, he caught sight of Tyler's face in the crowd. The wrestling captain wasn't clapping. He was staring at Andre with a mixture of shock and something else, something that looked almost like respect. Backstage, Andre changed quickly back into his regular clothes, still buzzing with adrenaline. He had done it. He had shown them who he really was. His mom was waiting for him when he emerged. "Andre, that was incredible," she said, pulling him into a hug. "Why didn't you tell me you were this good? Your grandfather would be so proud." Over her shoulder, Andre saw Luis approaching with a grin, and behind him, hovering uncertainly at the edge of the crowd, was Tyler. The moment of truth had arrived. Andre tensed as Tyler approached, unsure what to expect. The wrestling captain had shed his usual group of followers and looked oddly uncomfortable without them. "Mom, this is Luis, a friend from school," Andre said quickly, nodding toward Luis. "Luis, my mom, Dr. Thomas." While they exchanged greetings, Andre kept his eyes on Tyler, who had stopped a few feet away, hands shoved in his pockets. "I should go congratulate the other performers," Dr. Thomas said, glancing between Andre and Tyler with a mother's intuition that something was happening. "Luis, would you mind showing me where I can find Miss Peters?" Luis looked reluctant to leave, but nodded. "Sure, Dr. Thomas." As they walked away, Andre's mom squeezed his shoulder and whispered, "I'm right over there if you need me." Then Andre was alone with Tyler. For a moment, neither spoke. "So," Tyler finally said, scuffing his shoe against the floor. "That was not what I expected." Andre crossed his arms. "What did you expect?" "I don't know. Not that." Tyler looked up, meeting Andre's eyes. "Where'd you learn to do all that?" "My grandfather. He started teaching me when I was 6. Tyler nodded slowly. "Have you ever, competed or anything?" "A few times. Regional championships in Chicago." Andre didn't mention the trophies stored in boxes at home, still waiting to be unpacked. Another awkward silence fell between them. Andre waited, refusing to make this easier for Tyler. "Look," Tyler finally said, "about the cafeteria thing today. And everything else the past few weeks?" Andre added. Tyler had the grace to look embarrassed. "Yeah, that too." He took a deep breath. "I was a jerk, okay? I shouldn't have done that stuff." It wasn't exactly an apology, but it was something. Andre studied Tyler's face, trying to gauge his sincerity. "Why did you?" he asked. What did I ever do to you? Tyler shrugged, looking away. Nothing, I guess. You were new, different, an easy target. He paused. My dad says you have to establish the pecking order early, you know? Show people who's in charge. Your dad sounds like a real piece of work, Andre said before he could stop himself. To his surprise, Tyler let out a short laugh. Yeah, well, not everyone has a cool mom who's a doctor. His expression grew serious again. Anyway, I just wanted to say, no hard feelings? He held out his hand. Andre looked at it for a long moment, thinking about the past weeks, the insults, the shoves, the milk dripping down his face in the cafeteria. I can't say no hard feelings, he said finally. What you did? It wasn't okay. Tyler's hand dropped. Right, whatever. But, Andre continued, I'm willing to start over if you are. Clean slate. Tyler looked surprised, then nodded. Yeah, clean slate. He awkwardly extended his hand again, and this time Andre shook it briefly. By the way, Tyler added as he turned to leave, you should join the martial arts club. We meet on Thursdays after school in the small gym. There's a martial arts club? Sort of. It's mostly just a few guys who did karate as kids. Nothing like what you do. Tyler shrugged. Coach Ryder supervises, but he doesn't know much. We could use someone who actually knows what they're doing. With that, he walked away, leaving Andre staring after him in confusion. Had that really just happened? Luis appeared at his side. What did he want? Was he threatening you again? Andre shook his head slowly. Actually, I think he just invited me to join the martial arts club. Seriously? Luis looked skeptical. You're not going, are you? It's probably a trap. I don't know, Andre admitted. Maybe not. His mom rejoined them, carrying a bouquet of flowers. These are for you, she said, handing them to Andre. Ms. Peters says you stole the show. Andre felt his cheeks warm. Thanks, Mom. I've got to head back to the hospital for an emergency consult, she said apologetically. Will you be okay getting home? I'll be fine, Andre assured her. Go save lives. After she left, Luis grinned at Andre. Dude, you're like a celebrity now. Everyone's talking about your performance. Sure enough, as they made their way out of the auditorium, several students Andre barely knew nodded or waved to him. One girl from his math class actually came up and asked where he'd learned those amazing moves. It feels weird, Andre admitted as they walked home. Luis lived just a few blocks away from him, something they'd only recently discovered. Being popular instead of being bullied? Yeah, I bet. Luis kicked a stone along the sidewalk. You think Tyler's for real? About wanting to start over? I don't know, Andre said honestly. People don't usually change that fast. True, but seeing you do all that kung fu stuff might have scared him straight. Andre laughed. It's wushu, not kung fu, and I doubt Tyler's scared of me. Maybe not scared, Luis conceded, but definitely impressed. Everyone was. They reached the corner where their paths diverged. See you tomorrow? Luis asked. Andre nodded. Yes, I'll see you tomorrow. Walking the rest of the way home alone, Andre had time to think. The past few hours felt surreal. From the humiliation in the cafeteria to the triumph on stage to that strange, almost apology from Tyler. He wasn't sure what to make of it all. At home, Andre went through his usual routine, homework, dinner, then practice in the garage. But his movements felt different tonight, lighter somehow, as if a weight had been lifted. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Good job today. Seriously impressive. Heather. Andre stared at the message in surprise. Tyler's girlfriend. He debated whether to respond before finally typing. Thanks. Another buzz. For what it's worth, I told Tyler he was being a jerk. Glad he finally listened. Interesting. So Heather had been on his side? Andre remembered her puzzled look in English class. Maybe there was more to her than he'd thought. Thanks for that, he replied. Clean slate for everyone, I guess. The next morning, Andre woke early as usual for his practice. As he jogged to the park, he noticed someone already in his usual spot, a figure moving through what looked like basic karate forms. It was Tyler. Andre slowed, unsure whether to approach or find somewhere else to practice. Before he could decide, Tyler spotted him. Hey, he called, looking almost as surprised as Andre felt. I didn't know you came here. Every morning, Andre replied, walking closer. What are you doing here? Tyler looked embarrassed. Trying to figure out some of those moves you did yesterday. Not having much luck. Andre watched as Tyler attempted a basic stance, his form all wrong. Part of him wanted to turn around and leave. Why should he help the guy who had made his life miserable for weeks? But another part, the part that had listened to his grandfather's teachings about generosity and patience, saw an opportunity. "Your stance is too narrow," he said before he could change his mind. "And your weight's on the wrong foot." Tyler looked up, surprised. "Oh, can you show me how it's supposed to be?" Andre hesitated, then set down his backpack. "Like this," he said, demonstrating the proper stance. Back straight, knees bent, weight centered. For the next half hour, Andre found himself giving an impromptu wushu lesson. Tyler was a quick learner, his athletic background giving him good body awareness if not technique. By the time they needed to head to school, they'd worked through 2 basic stances and a simple hand form. "This is harder than it looks," Tyler admitted, wiping sweat from his forehead. "You make it seem easy." "Years of practice," Andre shrugged. "My grandfather was strict. We trained every day, no excuses." "He sounds intense." He was. Andre felt a familiar pang of loss. But he was also the best man I've ever known. They walked toward school together, an unlikely pair. The conversation was stilted at times, but not hostile. Tyler asked questions about wushu, and Andre found himself explaining the philosophy behind the movements. Balance, discipline, respect. "That's the part I never got in karate class as a kid," Tyler said. "It was just, punch this, kick that, and no one explained why." As they approached the school, Andre braced himself for things to go back to normal, for Tyler to rejoin his friends and pretend their morning training session had never happened. But to his surprise, Tyler stuck by his side as they entered the building. People noticed. Of course they did. The school's top athlete walking in with the kid he'd poured milk on just yesterday. Heads turned, whispers followed them down the hall. At Andre's locker, Tyler said, "The martial arts club meets tomorrow after school. You should come." Andre closed his locker, considering. "I'll think about it." "Fair enough." Tyler nodded to someone behind Andre. "Hey, Luis." Luis approached cautiously, eyeing Tyler with suspicion. "Hey, see you guys in English," Tyler said, then headed off to his own locker. Luis turned to Andre with wide eyes. "Okay, what was that? Why are you suddenly buddies with Tyler?" "We're not buddies," Andre said, though he wasn't entirely sure that was true anymore. "We just talked about wushu." "Uh-huh." Luis looked skeptical. "And he's not planning to ambush you after school or anything?" "I don't think so. Actually, I think he might really want to learn." The day passed in a blur of classes and confused glances. News of Andre's talent show performance had spread, and people who had never spoken to him before suddenly wanted to know more about that cool martial arts thing. Even teachers treated him differently. Mr. Patterson actually smiled when Andre answered a question in homeroom. At lunch, Andre and Luis sat at their usual table in the back of the cafeteria. They'd just started eating when Tyler appeared, tray in hand. "Mind if I join you?" he asked. Luis looked at Andre, clearly communicating, "Are you sure about this?" With his eyes. Andre gave a small nod. "Free country," he said, moving his backpack to make room. Tyler sat down. "So Luis, Andre tells me you're an artist." Luis nearly choked on his sandwich. Yeah. I guess. He's being modest," Andre said. "He's really good." "Show him that sketch you did of Ms. Rivera as a superhero." Reluctantly, Luis pulled out his sketchbook and flipped to a drawing of their English teacher in a cape and mask. Wielding a book like a weapon, Tyler laughed. "That's awesome. You ever think about doing a comic book or something?" And just like that, the 3 of them were having a normal conversation. It was surreal but not unpleasant. By the time lunch ended, Luis had even relaxed enough to laugh at one of Tyler's jokes. As they headed to their afternoon classes, Andre found himself walking beside Heather, who had been watching their lunch table with interest. "That was unexpected," she said, nodding toward Tyler and Luis, who were ahead of them in the hall. "Yeah," Andre agreed. "For me too. Tyler can be a good guy when he's not trying so hard to impress everyone." She gave Andre a sidelong glance. "Just so you know, he actually felt bad about the milk thing. He just didn't know how to fix it." "And now?" Heather shrugged. "Now he's figuring it out, I guess." She smiled slightly. "Thanks for giving him a chance. Not everyone would." As she hurried to catch up with Tyler, Andre realized something had fundamentally shifted at Westridge High. The hierarchy had changed, and somehow, against all odds, he had found his place within it. Not as a victim, not as an outsider, but as himself, Andre Thomas, grandson of a wushu master, son of a surgeon, and now perhaps a bridge between different worlds at Westridge High. 3 months had passed since the talent show, and Westridge High felt like a different place to Andre. The weather had turned cold, with December bringing the first snowfall of the season. As Andre walked to school, his breath clouded in the frosty air. He reflected on how much had changed. The martial arts club had grown from a handful of students to over 20 regular members. Coach Ryder had officially named Andre and Tyler co-captains, acknowledging that Andre's technical knowledge and Tyler's leadership skills made them a good team. Twice a week, they transformed the small gym into a training space, with Andre teaching the fundamentals of wushu while incorporating elements of other disciplines that members brought to the group. "You're going to freeze to death one of these mornings," Luis said, falling into step beside Andre at the corner where their paths met. He was bundled in a thick coat and scarf, his sketchbook tucked under his arm as always. "It's not that cold," Andre replied, though his thin jacket was hardly adequate for the winter weather. "Says the guy with no gloves here." Luis handed him a pair of knitted gloves. "My mom made extra." Andre accepted them gratefully. "Thanks. Tell your mom I said thanks too." As they approached the school, they could see Tyler waiting by the entrance, stamping his feet to stay warm. "There you guys are," he called as they got closer. "We need to finalize the demonstration for the winter assembly today. Principal Wong wants our routine by lunch." The winter assembly was coming up before the holiday break, and the martial arts club had been invited to perform. It was a big deal. Usually only the cheerleaders and choir got showcase spots. "I was thinking about that," Andre said as they headed inside. "What if we combined my wushu forms with some of your wrestling moves? Show how different styles can work together." Tyler nodded thoughtfully. "That could be cool. Like a choreographed sparring match?" "Exactly. And maybe bring in some of Raj's karate and Mia's taekwondo too." "You guys are such nerds about this stuff," Luis said, but he was smiling. "Hey, I finished those designs for the club t-shirts. Want to see?" He flipped open his sketchbook to reveal a stylized design that combined elements from different martial arts into a single emblem, with Westridge Martial Arts arching over the top. "That's awesome," Tyler said, examining the drawing. "We definitely need to get these printed." Andre looked around the crowded hallway as they walked toward their lockers. The same students milled about as always, but the atmosphere had shifted subtly. People from different social groups mingled more freely. The rigid hierarchy that had been so obvious on his first day seemed less important now. Not that everything was perfect. There were still cliques, still occasional tensions. But something had changed, starting with that talent show night. It was as if seeing Andre and Tyler set aside their differences had given others permission to cross their own social boundaries. In homeroom, Mr. Patterson was discussing the upcoming winter formal. "Committee members need to stay after school today to finalize decorations," he announced. "And tickets go on sale tomorrow in the cafeteria." Dances hadn't been on Andre's radar at all, but Heather had been talking about the formal non-stop in their English group. She and Tyler had broken up a few weeks after the talent show. Mutually, they both insisted, though rumor had it that Heather had done the breaking. Surprisingly, they'd remained friends, and Heather had even joined the martial arts club, proving to have a natural aptitude for the fluid movements of wushu. "You going to the dance?" Tyler asked as they left homeroom. Andre shrugged. "Hadn't thought about it. You should. Everyone's going." Tyler lowered his voice. "I heard Mia asking Luis if you were going to be there." Andre felt his cheeks warm. Mia Chen was a quiet girl from his math class who had joined the martial arts club early on, impressing everyone with her precise taekwondo forms. They'd been paired up for several training sessions, and Andre had found himself looking forward to those sessions more than he cared to admit. "I don't know," he said non-committally. "Maybe." The morning passed quickly. In English, they presented their group project on The Old Man and the Sea, with Heather surprising everyone by giving a thoughtful analysis of the novel's themes of perseverance and dignity in defeat. Ms. Rivera gave them an A, commenting on their excellent group dynamic. At lunch, their table had grown from just Andre and Luis to a regular gathering of 6 or 7 students, mostly martial arts club members, but also a few others who had gradually joined their circle. Today, Mia sat across from Andre, occasionally glancing up from her biology textbook to join the conversation. So what's the plan for the demonstration? Asked Raj, a sophomore whose family had moved from Mumbai the previous year. Andre explained the idea for a choreographed routine combining different styles, drawing a quick diagram on a napkin. We'll need to practice, but I think we can make it work. It'll be epic, Tyler said confidently. Better than the cheerleaders' routine for sure. I heard that, said a voice behind him. Zach's girlfriend Brittany, head cheerleader, stood there with her tray. You better bring your A-game, Walker, because we've been practicing for weeks. Friendly competition, Tyler said with a grin. Winner buys the other team pizza? You're on, Brittany replied before heading to her usual table. Andre shook his head, smiling. Remember when she wouldn't even look at us? Times change, Louise said philosophically. People change. After lunch, Andre had a free period. He usually spent it in the library, but today he headed to the small gym to work on ideas for the demonstration. To his surprise, Mia was already there, going through a series of taekwondo forms. Sorry, he said, stopping at the door. I didn't know anyone would be here. Mia paused mid-kick. It's okay. I just wanted to practice somewhere quiet. I can come back later. No, stay, she said quickly. Actually, I wanted to ask you something about the wushu horse stance. I can't seem to get it right. Andre set down his backpack. It's all about the angle of your feet and distributing your weight evenly. He demonstrated the stance, then watched as Mia tried to copy it. Lower, he suggested, and turn your feet out more. For the next 20 minutes, they worked on different stances and transitions, the conversation flowing easily between them. Andre found himself noticing things he hadn't before. The determination in her eyes when she concentrated, the way she pushed her hair behind her ear when she was listening. Thanks for the help, she said as they gathered their things before the bell. Hey, are you going to the winter formal? Andre's heart skipped a beat. I haven't decided yet, you? I'm thinking about it, she hesitated. It might be fun if we all went as a group. You, me, Louise, Tyler, Heather, Raj. Yeah, Andre said, trying to hide his disappointment. A group outing wasn't exactly what he'd been hoping for. That could be fun. Mia seemed to be waiting for something more, but when Andre didn't say anything else, she nodded and headed for the door. See you at club tomorrow. As she left, Luis appeared in the doorway, raising his eyebrows at Andre. Dude, what was that? What was what? That... Luis gestured dramatically toward the door Mia had just exited. She was totally giving you an opening to ask her to the dance, and you just stood there. Andre frowned. She was talking about going as a group, because she didn't want to be too obvious. Luis shook his head in disbelief. For someone so good at martial arts, you're really bad at reading signals. The rest of the day, Andre replayed the conversation with Mia in his head, wondering if Luis was right. By the time the final bell rang, he decided to take a chance. The worst she could say was no, right? He found her at her locker, putting on her coat to leave. Hey, he said, suddenly nervous, about the dance. I was wondering if maybe you'd want to go, with me. Not just in the group, but, as my date. Mia looked surprised, then broke into a smile. I thought you'd never ask. Yes, I'd like that. Relief and happiness washed over Andre. Great. That's... great. Smooth, Thomas. Real smooth, teased Heather as she passed by. See you both at practice tomorrow. Andre walked home with a lightness in his step that had nothing to do with martial arts. When he arrived, he found his mom in the kitchen, surprisingly home early from the hospital. Good day? She asked, noting his smile. Pretty good, he admitted. I asked someone to the winter formal. His mom raised her eyebrows. The martial arts girl you've been talking about? Mia? Andre felt his face warm. Yeah, good for you. She smiled, then grew more serious. Andre, I've been meaning to talk to you. I got a call from Principal Wong today. Andre's stomach dropped. Is something wrong? Actually, quite the opposite. He called to tell me how impressed he is with what you've done with the martial arts club. He said it's helped bridge some long-standing social divides at the school. Andre shrugged, embarrassed. It wasn't just me. Tyler helped a lot. And Luis. And everyone else in the club. Still, his mom said. He specifically mentioned your leadership. Said you've shown remarkable maturity. She smiled proudly. Your grandfather would be so proud of you, Andre. Not just for your wushu skills, but for how you've used them. Later that evening, as Andre practiced in the garage, he found himself thinking about his grandfather. The old man had always said that true mastery wasn't about winning fights, but about finding balance. in body and in life. For the first time, Andre felt like he truly understood what that meant. The following week, the martial arts club performed their demonstration at the winter assembly to thunderous applause. The routine, a carefully choreographed battle that showcased the strengths of different martial arts styles before ending with all participants moving in unified harmony, was unlike anything Westridge had seen before. As they took their final bow, Andre looked out at the audience, at his classmates cheering, at teachers nodding in approval, at his mom standing in the back with tears in her eyes. Then he looked at the people beside him, Tyler, Luis, Mia, Raj, Heather, and all the others who had become not just club members but friends. 3 months ago, he'd been the outsider, the target, the new kid who didn't belong. Now, as the applause washed over them, Andre realized he'd found his place, not by hiding who he was or by fighting back against those who had tried to make him feel small, but by staying true to himself and to the teachings his grandfather had passed down to him. As the students filed out of the assembly, a freshman Andre didn't know approached him hesitantly. "Excuse me," the boy said. He was small for his age, with glasses and a nervous demeanor. "That was really amazing. The martial arts thing, I was wondering, are you guys accepting new members, even if someone has no experience at all?" Andre smiled, remembering his own first days at Westridge. "Club meets Tuesdays and Thursdays after school. Everyone's welcome, no experience needed." The relief on the boy's face was all too familiar. "Thanks, I'll be there. What's your name?" Andre asked. "David, I just moved here last week." Andre put a hand on the younger boy's shoulder. "Well, David, let me introduce you to some people." He gestured toward Luis and Mia, who were waiting nearby. "Trust me, the new kid thing gets easier." As they walked away together, Andre caught Tyler's eye across the hall. The wrestling captain gave him a nod of understanding and approval. They had both changed over these past months, finding strength not in dominating others but in building something together. Outside, the first snow of winter was falling, covering Westridge in a clean white blanket. A fresh start, Andre thought, for everyone.